The following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
And welcome to Eye on Oshkosh. Cheryl Hentz here along with my co-host Dan Rylance, who you can't see at the moment, but you will be able to shortly. And we're very pleased to be welcoming back to the show folks who have been on before, two members of our Oshkosh Area School District Board of Education. To my left is Steve Dito, and we're also joined tonight, happily so, by our school board president, John Lemberger. And welcome, guys.
Yep, thank you. Welcome
You're coming in on a very, very chilly night to talk about some not so warm and fuzzy issues.
That's a nice lead.
Yes, I just came up with that on the spur of the moment, but it works, right? The main reason we had you guys on is because we've recently gotten some disappointing and I think surprising news about our school superintendent. Dr. Vigut has submitted his resignation. Shockingly so to, I think, a lot of people in the community. So we want to focus a large part of this segment on that, but we also want to touch a little bit on the upcoming referendum too. So let's talk about Dr. Vigut's resignation. Obviously, caught you guys by surprise.
Well, I mean, he asked me, I don't know exactly when, a couple months ago to write him a letter of recommendation, and asked me to keep that quiet because he, and I respected that. Right?
Now, not to interrupt, but I'm going to. Was that before his contract was extended or after?
You know, I'd have to, I don't know, I'm not sure.
Because I think that's key.
Yeah, I don't remember, to be honest. I mean,
all right, fair enough.
But
so he asked you to keep it quiet.
So, and I had kind of forgotten about it. He told me he wasn't, just going out looking everywhere. He had a particular position that he was interested in. Apparently, it was the CISA thing, and I'm at the university. People apply for jobs now and then just to, see what's out there and see if they like them. And oftentimes they turn them down or change their mind. And so I, and nothing came of it for a while. I just kind of forgot about it. And then that Friday he asked me to come in and talk to him, and so I had no idea what he was going to talk about. So in that sense, it did catch me by surprise because I sort of, left that goal. Yeah. I
wouldn't have forgotten someone asking me to write on the letter of resignation.
Well, I should say I didn't forget that I had written the letter, but I had sort of figured that it had kind of blown over.
Yeah. Gotcha. Steve, you were very shocked, yes?
No, I guess I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Anybody who really worked with Don or watched Don over the last few months could see a definite change in the way he carried himself. That the energy level, he was tired. You could see that he was constantly getting hammered, and it was taking its toll. I was much more surprised by Patty Vickman leaving, the HR director, than I was by Don. When he called up on Friday, he started to talk, and I could tell where it was going right away, and it was not that big of a surprise to me, I guess.
So even though he accepted a 2-year contract extension, it's, I mean, look, we can all sit here and see the hammering that these guys take. You guys as well are included in that. All of administration and pretty much the entire board gets hammered and bashed constantly. We see that, and I think a lot of us are kind of disgusted about the basic tenor of the way that's handled. But you know, yeah, we see that happening, but when someone accepts a 2-year contract extension, then I don't think that just a couple months later you would expect them to say, oh, well, I'm out of here. See, that I think would be shocking as well as disappointing, and I think you're disappointed.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very disappointed in the way that these things have played out. I mean, before we had a monumental task, now it's like Herculean.
Yeah.
We are making strides. We're making a lot of very good strides, very positive movement. The board actually has, I feel, has collected itself very well in the last month, and after Vigot's resignation, have even collected itself to a greater degree than it was before. Some of that is the experience of being on the board for a couple of years now, and so you start to get an understanding of the parameter, but it very definitely is disappointing. We have a lot of things that are on our agenda, big things, so budget reconciliation, employee handbooks, the Oklahoma referendum, that Don will be helping with over the course of the next 6 months. I had emails from people saying, well, just kick them out, and save the district some money. And to me, I just thought that was foolish because, I mean, we just lost our HR director. We have an interim one now, very, very nice man, Larry Lewis. He's a school board member up in, I believe, Neenah. And I just thought it didn't make any sense to sit there and get rid of Don like that. Just how is this going to save the district money? We're going to have somebody come in and do David Gunlock's job if he's going to step up and do the deputy superintendent thing. And Don certainly doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who's going to back off on this. Perhaps he sees a light at the end of the tunnel, and if anything, I'd be surprised if he doesn't accelerate some of the processes that we're going through right now.
Okay.
Do you anticipate any other resignations in the administration?
2 school board members.
Okay. That'll be announced Monday, or?
I think the school board is going to take steps to try and prevent any more resignations. I mean,
how are you going to do that?
Well, one of the things that we're going to be employing is we started looking back. There's a number of issues here on retention of administration.
Okay.
And it seems like part of it started on January 27, 2010, where we went from a 2-year to a 1-year contract situation. And you've got people in this district like Randy Johnson, Al Wenig from the rec department, Randy's the head of maintenance, you've got Kim Brown, you've got a whole mess of people here that have been with this district for 10, 12, 15 years. Why are we putting them on a 1-year contract? In my opinion, that's one aspect of it. The school board itself, this was John's idea, was we're going to have a special meeting, and it's going to be relatively soon, where administration is not invited. Where we're going to have
open.
It will be an open meeting. It'll be
noticed.
It will not be televised. We're going to do it like on a Monday or Tuesday or something, but we will be discussing a limited agenda, dealing with what it is that we want to find in the new superintendent. Also ideas for administration retention. We might have a facilitator coming for that from a separate school district, which would be an outstanding thing. I'm not going to get into who it is right now, but it would be an outstanding opportunity for us. But we need to talk about this at the board level at a meeting about how to resolve some of these issues, because you go into that office there and you ask people and they kind of blow it off, so what can we do to help you? No. But if you keep pushing on them a bit, they will tell you some of the issues. One of the things right now, yesterday when I was in their payroll, they came up with this idea about 403B Roth contributions, setting it up for all the staff and employees. If they want to make this investment and use that themselves, this would be a nice little benefit that they could use. And because of the amount of time and lack of people in payroll, it's been 6 months, it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of initiatives that are just sitting there. We need to take a look at how we're dealing with our administration.
Yeah, I just add, I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
a year ago, I was in Milwaukee with Don and some of his staff at the WASB conference, and there was actually quite a number of them there. Bob, Dave, I can't remember everybody, Randy. Energy was extremely high, camaraderie excellent, but I think a year later, these people come in the morning, they go home at 8 o'clock at night, and then they work another 2 or 3 hours. You can do that once in a while, and sometimes you have to do that, but they do this every day. And I think what's happening, and I saw this with Don too, is he was just getting tired. And I had talks with him for months now about what can we do to make life better, and expressing my concern for the number of hours that they put in, because it's such a tight group. They kind of, he said, well, we help each other, we support each other, but I think that only goes so far, and then you eventually just hit a wall. And to me, I think Don kind of hit that wall, and that's why we're concerned about other people on the staff, because I know they're doing the same thing, and that's why we're having this meeting to try and figure out what can we do to make this a more enjoyable place to work. If not, maybe enjoyable isn't the word, but at least a place to work where you're not putting these monster hours.
And this facilitator that you're talking about getting from like another district somewhere, what exactly is their role going to be?
Keep us on track.
Okay.
It would be, this person I'll say is a superintendent, okay? And they have offered their services. We have to see if we can, free, see if we can coordinate the times and that kind of stuff. It would be an excellent opportunity to have a person here who keeps us on track with this. And if I might interject really quickly, it's not just this meeting. We have done some things with the information requests through some recent policy adjustments now. So hopefully that'll alleviate the hundreds of emails from 1 or 2 individuals in the community, which eat up a lot of our district resources. And the board itself is going through we're going to be launching a board self-evaluation process to see how we're working on things. Our meetings are ungodly long because so many things are pulled from the consent resolution essentially to grandstand instead of trusting administration. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have the right to pull anything we want to at any time, but there comes a point when it's just like you're trying to make a point, 1 or 2 members perhaps, that they want to grandstand about something, and it's like we come to the same conclusion after an hour of discussion for what administration recommended in the beginning anyway. And these things, this all takes a toll.
Sure.
And so we can look at some things the board can do to become more effective too.
So with limited time, let's talk specifically about what the game plan is for, interviewing and getting a superintendent and hopefully making sure that they stick around for longer than 2 years. I mean, you sort of alluded to that a little bit, but see, I understand he puts in long hours. I think everybody does in district administration, and I think teachers do also, for that matter. Not as long maybe as the administration, but there's long hours that are put in by everyone, and I think more so than a lot of people in the community really understand. But be that as it may, when Dr. Vigut came, I mean, let's face it, the bar was already set pretty high as to what he had to do and the challenges that were ahead of him. And I think Betty Lang did a most outstanding job. I mean, she got up to speed just like that, and she was on top of things. And so he knew he had big shoes to fill, and he had a lot of, hurdles that he had to clear. I can't imagine that he was surprised at the workload that he had or the number of hours he was having to put in.
You'd have to ask him that one. But I think there's, and I alluded to this at the board meeting the other night, I think that the working environment in the city isn't always pleasant. I mean, you've got all sorts of people second-guessing you. I mean, I kind of took on the Northwestern over this, and, I've had some good heart-to-heart conversations with Adam last week. And I think the articles that he's written since then have been better. This is my opinion. I'm not a journalist, but you know, and you know, like Steve is alluding to one particular individual who's, you know, making hundreds of information request things. There's just certain elements in the city that I think he found were a drag. And you know, that's when you see that energy level starting to drop. And I will also say, I think personally, I think that 4-2 vote to renew his contract after he worked so hard for so long for this district, to only get a 4-2 vote to renew his contract had to have hurt.
Well, I think Allison Garner, though, and I want Dan to jump in here with some of his questions too, but I do think all Allison Garner wanted to do is just delay it by a couple of weeks.
Right.
And I don't know that she would have voted no otherwise. I think
and you guys didn't support her motion to lay it over for 2 weeks.
No, that's true. Becker, I don't think, you know.
Schneider.
Schneider.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Schneider. Well,
Interchangeable.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly. Yeah.
Ben had there's one little thing about the contract. I mean, it wasn't that he didn't want Don, he just didn't like one little thing of the contract. But you know, I can understand where, you know, when you're kind of a public figure like that, and you put in you invest so much of yourself, that it was not a good scene.
Schneider does have one good point, though, and that is to, you know, in future contracts, to put in a penalty for not fulfilling the term of the contract. Is that something that you guys would entertain doing?
We haven't discussed this on a formal level, but that's been rattling around in my cage too. This would have to go through the Administration Compensation Committee. And that perhaps would be something that we would be bringing up at this meeting. I mean, you know, if we're going to talk about going from 2 to 1 year, or rather from 1 year to 2 year contracts on some of these things, you want to take a look at, if we're going to do it, let's just do it all at once, so we're not have to revisit it, you know, a year later, a few weeks down the road. I'm not so much of a, I just don't see, quite frankly, the value so much in always using a stick. I like to see more incentive in some of the stuff. Certainly you want to have people who are going to stick with their contract. I mean, that's what you have a contract for, otherwise what's the point? That being said, you alluded before about, you know, what it is, what's the process we're going to go through here with the superintendent issue. For myself, I see this district, if you were to find somebody who was like in their 50s and wanted to have a defining moment in their career, I mean, I can't say that I've not met the person, but if somebody came in, it was like 35 or 40 or something, I'd be very hesitant because I would see him, again, using this as a stepping stone type situation. I want somebody in who is not afraid of the challenges that are coming up. We have to be on board about the challenges that are coming up. I think that the board that's in place now and the dynamic that will change after April will be very conducive to relieving a lot of the stress, the internal stress. And I think that we're on the tipping point right now of creating something very, very vibrant and dynamic in this community.
Okay.
If I was a superintendent, I'd be somewhat disappointed about the weakness of the board. And John, I'm going to talk to you particularly. Pat Kolkovich has ran ramshot over these meetings. Don't you have a gavel that you can use? I mean, time and time again. Vigat was saying you're out of order, you're out of order. That's your job to tell him you're out of order. You never say anything. You let him talk. You say there's no questions. He asks 10 questions. You got to help your superintendent.
Yeah,
why don't you do that?
There's one particular time, I think I let him talk on, one particular time I'm thinking of, and it may have been others, but I really, you know, we've been talking about this guy, and I really wanted people to see what we were talking about. And so I really wanted him to just talk on and ask all those questions, because I think it was important for people to understand that this is what we're dealing with. All of these questions. Now, you know, maybe that was a tactical mistake on my part. I don't know. But
You know what I think the public sees? I think the public sees that as someone who can run roughshod over the board, that the board doesn't stick to its procedures or what have you. And I think Kogatkevich does what I believe his intent is, and that's to embarrass the board and the administration. You know, embarrass and make himself look like he's really got a handle on things, when in fact his emails have been asking this district to create things that they're not required by law to keep records of in the way that he wants them kept. I mean, we've all seen the emails. It's ridiculous.
In the last 6 weeks, we have instituted a clock 3 minutes.
Yep. And we run it up, not down.
Yep.
So you start at 0, and you know, people can see the clock. Because the way the boardroom is set up, we say, well, you have 3 minutes, but they can't see a clock. There's no clock in their views, so we project one now, a big one. It's like, you know, size of that wall there. And it starts at 0 and it goes to 3. And they can see that. And they've been pretty good about self-monitoring.
Yep. There's been some complaints, you know, we only got 3 minutes, but this has been much more effective. People now are, at the last board meeting, we had a total of 24 people speaking. You know, there's an hour, even at 3 minutes. Sure. And you want to have that participation. We don't even have a legal obligation to have a public forum.
Correct.
But you want to have that.
Nobody
community.
does.
No. And I agree about Pat, and that is done. And with the new policies, that is done. So we are creating an environment which is changing this situation.
Okay, so specifically with regard to, well, you mentioned Patty Vickman. So what's happening with filling her position? I understand about Larry Lewis. I'm familiar with Larry from when I covered the Neenah School Board as a reporter. So, you know, kudos to you there for him being brought on. But what's being done to get a permanent position filled there by someone, and what is the process? What are the steps that you're taking to fill Vigut's position?
Wow. Okay. Well, let's start with Vigut's position. I mean, like I said, we're having this hopefully on this coming Wednesday. We're asking a search group to come in, and we asked them to do it free and with no obligation on our part, to sort of lay out for the new board members what the process is and what the variations of the process might be. So we've got, you know, we can do a targeted search, we can cast a broad net, we can hire an interim, we can do all sorts of things. And I think it's important for the new board members to sort of see that all the options laid out that way. So that will come up on, hopefully we'll get that done on Wednesday. And then the special board meeting, we can start
Which would
talking
be
about
following Tuesday or whatever.
what kind of you know, parameters we're looking for. Personally, I think the next person should have rhinoceros skin and eat nails for breakfast. They're going to have to be pretty tough. And it could be, I mean, beyond that, hard to predict what the board is going to want to do. If they want to do a targeted search, hire an interim, or just go into a whole search, and 7 people sit down and sort of talk it through and follow through on a strategy. And then also, do we want to hire another search firm, or do we want to take another alternative?
There's WASB has superintendent search services. The one we've been using, what, HB something or other. We have, I mean, these things are already mapped out. The problem that we're going to have with this is currently, I believe, there's 15 superintendent positions in the state that are open. And sooner rather than later, which is what this board is doing right now. On Wednesday, we're going to be discussing this about what the search is entailed with. And on the following Tuesday, then, we're going to be having our meeting discussing what it is that we can deal with as far as, like, what do we want to do? Do we want to look at interim possibilities? How do we want to lay this out to our administration to proceed? And that's what we're going to try to accomplish at this meeting. So within the space of a week, we're taking this on hardcore. And we should be, in the February, there should be things being posted. HRs already have stuff posted, I believe. So, I mean, Larry has come in and is doing, quite frankly, a great job there. He's an excellent pickup for us there. So this is not just getting rattled around and thrown in the past. I believe, and I believe this in my heart, that you're seeing some things here with this board, this referendum that's coming up. This Oak Lawn situation, which has been on the books for over 3 decades, is going to come to an end on April 4th, the day after the referendum. Now, either a new school is built, or else then we do what the Plan B is. This will be done. It will be resolved. Three decades of indecision by previous boards. And you're going to see more from this board on these kind of decisions. This administration turnover. While VGIT is there dealing in this last 6 months here on things like budget handbooks and budget reconciliation and employee handbooks and the referendum itself, and certainly the board will be very, very actively engaged in this, this board is going to be looking at some of the problems that we're having here. Since 2007 to 2010, 18 administrators have left and 11 retirements. And then in the last year, we've had an additional 12. This has got to stop. What is the reason for it? This is one of the things that we're going to be dealing with as a board while our administrative team are dealing with some of these other crucial issues, because this is an issue that needs to be resolved as well. It's just as important as the rest of these things, because you want to have consistency.
Right. Well, and a lot of the groundwork, I would think, has already sort of, in some ways, been done, because you just went down this road 2 years ago.
Well, yes,
You know, so-
but there's also great opportunities here, Cheryl. We have the Oshkosh Community Foundation, which has agreed to kick in $80K to do a survey, and we're going to be basing our strategic plan on this. Now, it was felt maybe we should wait until we get a new superintendent. No, we're not going to wait.
Wait, you're going to base your strategic plan on what?
On a survey that goes out to the community with specific questions from a target. They've got the RFPs right up by a consulting firm. They're going to pay for this, and they're going to come out with a survey. The last one they did on Winnebago County had over 3,000 or 4,000 participants. And that's what they're going to do for the school district. What is it that this community wants? What kind of educational value? What do we value here? What is it that we see?
I think we're going to see some of the answers to that on April 3rd.
Yes, very definitely, very definitely.
And possibly before, you know, so.
But what a
Go
caveat,
ahead.
you know.
I think your search for new superintendent is going to be very difficult.
Yes.
We're in a post-Walker era. Those 13, 15 vacancies are part of the reflection of that.
Yes.
2 is, you know, whoever you offer the job to is going to call VGIT. Curious what he'll say.
And they'll look at media reports.
Absolutely.
And I mean, just like Vigut did.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew he was walking into a snake's den.
So I
And-
wish you the best, but it's going to be a tough sell.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And real quickly, what about, you know, Patty Vickman's slot? I mean, okay, you've got an interim there. Are you searching for someone there, or what's going on with that?
I haven't had I've been very sick, and now Don's out of town, so I haven't really had a chance to address that with him. I do know I like Larry Lewis, and he's in there now. So, but yeah.
Do you see that as permanent or temporary?
I would assume it would be temporary. It'd be
Yeah.
great if it
You
was
have to
permanent.
wait until the new superintendent to make it permanent?
I don't know.
I mean, that's
an interesting
Yeah.
observation. Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing I need when Don gets back. He's been out at the conference, and now I think he's down at WASB. And before he left, I was down with the flu I had that 6-week coughing thing that people get. I'm just getting over it. So we need to talk that through yet. Yeah.
I know that they have got a search going on that, and it is a high standard bar. They wanted people who are going to be an extremely high caliber individual to come into this position. Whether we find that or not, well, the search is out there. We really certainly lost an asset in John Sprangers because of his legal background, and that has cost the district some money as well.
Well, and also, you know, I'll just get the final word in here before we go to break and bring in our next guest. But, you know, people complain all the time about the money that the superintendent and other top administrators are making. And the reality of it is, you know, when we have to keep changing people like we are, that's costing this district money too. In executive recruitment searches,
Yes.
you know, retraining. It takes them time to get up to speed. And when you've got this kind of black eye as we, I think, do, because of all the negativity and everything, you know, that's going to cost us more money to get someone in here too.
And it's too bad because we $4 million poured into facilities, $300,000 in grants for new technology, $150,000 for new technology grants. Our general fund is back up to where it's supposed to be at over 10%. I've got 9 pages of accomplishments in the last year and a half. I know. I know, but there's so many good things in this. And this district, the preceding boards and the way that we've done this, all right, our buildings are falling down.
I got to wrap this up.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Steve. So anyway, thanks to both of you for being here. We'll have you back.
I'll just read it next time.
Okay, send it to me. We'll put it on the website. All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be discussing PFLAG and a recent hate crime in the city of Oshkosh. We'll be right back.
Every year, the U.S. Department of the Treasury receives about 1.4 million reports of problems with paper checks. Checks can be lost, stolen, or delayed. If you still receive Social Security payments by paper check, Treasury wants you to know about a safer, more convenient way to get your money. The Direct Express Prepaid Debit MasterCard. The Direct Express card is new and is available to anyone receiving Social Security benefits, even if you don't have a bank account. Your monthly benefits will be automatically placed onto your card account each month on the day your money is due. While other debit cards cost money, it is possible to use the Direct Express card for free to make purchases, pay bills, and get cash at thousands of locations nationwide. There are no sign-up or monthly account fees. No more waiting for the mail or worrying about lost or stolen checks. Call 1-877-212-9991 or visit www.usdirectexpress.com.
And welcome back to the second half of Eye on Oshkosh. We're joined now by Joe Wiedenmeyer, who is the president of the Oshkosh chapter of the PFLAG group, which PFLAG is an acronym for Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. And Joe is here to talk about the recent beating of a gay man in Oshkosh. Early in the morning on Christmas Day, a 20-year-old man was really severely, savagely beaten by 2 men outside of a tavern here in town. The assault occurred, and he suffered massive injuries to his face, jaw, injuries to his brain, which required emergency surgery. And according to the criminal complaint from the district attorney's office, the assault was due to the victim's sexual orientation, and that the assailants made statements pertaining to his status as a gay man. So PFLAG recently held, you hold monthly meetings,
Correct.
But this was kind of a little bit different twist on one of your regular meetings, because you wanted to talk about this event and get other people from the community involved, not just parents and friends of lesbians and gays. So why don't you tell us about the meeting, and
Sure.
then we'll talk about specifics.
Well, basically, our meetings on a regular basis are there. We exist to support both families and the gay and lesbian community with needs that they have, obviously. This particular meeting, we decided to open to the public. Most meetings are open to the public anyway, but this one was one that really hit close to where we are. As I said in the meeting, this is our worst nightmare. Any parent of a gay child, this is their worst nightmare. Any parent of any child, this is their worst nightmare. So we felt that if this could happen in Oshkosh, now we wouldn't want this to go ahead and happen again. We needed to start a conversation where we could talk about these things, get things out in public. For every incident I think that you find like this, you're going to find hundreds of other ones that could go unreported, that you know, just from simple bullying all the way up to physical encounters. So.
Yeah, and I happened to be at the church where you have your meetings that night for another meeting, and so I popped in, and you had a crowd. You had a very large crowd of people there.
We had around 30 people, which we felt was very good. And it was a good meeting. I think it was a really good cross section of the community there. There were parents and their kids were there. There were educators. There was clergy. The police department was represented. So we had a very, very good turnout with it, and I think a very good discussion about it. And it was just a first discussion. I mean, this is just kind of an opening, the beginning of what we hope to be a little more of bringing this to the forefront and being out ourselves, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and you know, just because this happened to a gay man, it's not just a gay issue.
Absolutely
this is a
not.
human rights issue, and you know, it's a morality issue in the sense of the people who did this allegedly acted like beasts, really, you know. And so from that standpoint, you know, that I think is very immoral. You know, people say, oh, homosexuality is immoral. Well, treating fellow human beings like that, I think, is one of the worst types of morality someone can display. And there was a gentleman on Facebook whose comments I found so offensive and vile. You know, he was suggesting that this man deserved this because, hey, there's a lot of us out there who don't approve of this lifestyle. Well, a lot of people might not approve of his comments. Does that mean that he should be savagely beaten?
Exactly.
You know, and that's what it's all about. And if we have that kind of ignorant mentality, and that's kind of a contradiction in terms there, I know, but if we have that kind of ignorant behavior and attitude, then this type of thing could happen to anybody, at any time, anywhere, for whatever we happen to believe on any viewpoint.
Exactly.
And that's what this is really all about.
It really is, and it's a way to open a conversation and have a good conversation. Have a conversation where we can disagree, but not, you know, not disagree to the point where we have to get physical with each other, and do those kinds of things. It's something that we want the public to talk about, to understand, and to know about. You know, we don't always like somebody else's politics, but it's not a reason to really get into that one.
Right, right. And so the police were there. What kinds of things did they well, I know they talked about that night in particular, and I had to leave then, as I said. So what kinds of things did they talk about after that?
You're talking about the entire group? Or
the officer, and then the rest of the group.
Right. There was a representative there from the Oshkosh Police Department. There was also a representative from the tavern that this man was beaten outside of, and the people that found him. Basically, they told us what had happened, and I have to say that I commend the Oshkosh Police Department, the people involved at PJ's Tavern, the people that have been involved with it so far all the way down the line, professionally have done the right job. I mean, they charged it with a hate crime. It's been out. You know, these men are being dealt with correctly. So what we talked about was what's going to happen from here. Where are we going from here? How are we going to address this in our community in the future? How do we want to make sure that these things don't happen? Many different conversations about you know, what we can do, how we can do it, from working in the schools with education to working with other groups across the community. The Oshkosh, what is the Oshkosh Civility Council was represented there, and I think it's a good opportunity for all of us to get that thing going. There are many things that we want to do. Our next PFLAG meeting will be dealing with more specific things, I think, of what PFLAG itself wants to do with it. But the conversation there, we talked about things that are happening in school, what can be done, how do we make sure our kids are safe, how do we make sure that people just know what's going on.
Yeah.
How representative of this is this of Oshkosh? Are there other incidents in the past? Can you give us any idea of where this fits? Or
I can't tell you that there's any specific one that would fit, especially into this hate crime category. But it's something that you don't want to happen again. So that's where we are. There is many stories of bullying, and particularly in the schools. And it as PFLAG, we've heard several stories of students in the public schools that have faced this. So it's there, it's out there, it's happening in our schools, it's going on, and we need to address those things. We need to, the educators need to look at them. And
you use the term hate crime. Now that is a federal law, isn't it?
That is correct.
And so it carries with it federal prosecution for committing a hate crime.
Right. It became a federal crime after a young man in Wyoming by the name of Matthew Shepard was killed.
We all know what happened there.
Under very similar circumstances to that. It was 1996, I believe.
What is the status of the prosecution against him, or these two men?
Right now, the last I heard, and I read in the paper the other day, is that one of the gentlemen has pleaded not guilty to that. His bail was reduced. I'm not sure whether he's out now or not. I'm not sure about the other one.
Okay, and what is the status of the man who was beat up?
He has trouble talking. His jaw is wired. Okay. He's going to have some physical rehab. He's going to have some extensive medical bills with this. He was beaten very severely.
Okay.
To the point of almost non-recognition.
Right.
The bartender from the bar outside where this happened, and he had, I don't know if he had been walking away when they attacked him or exactly what happened, but she found him, the bartender found him, not right outside the bar. It was a little ways away. He didn't come back in, and so she thought that was unusual, so she went looking for him, and she said when she found him, and I'm not talking miles away, it was fairly close by, but she found him. She said he'd been sitting across the bar from her all night, and when she found him, she did not recognize him. And I think that's a very powerful statement.
Yeah, it is, yeah. You brought something along.
I did.
I'm going to try to hold this up and see if our camera people can get this. I'm not doing very well here.
There we go.
How's that? A little better?
Yeah, and basically this...
You want to read it, or...?
This doesn't say much. This is basically, after the meeting or at the end of the meeting, we talked about the things that we had done and a statement that we wanted to give that people could actually show their support for. So we asked them to sign this, and we've got on this paper, we have 20 signatures from the people that were there that night.
Okay, the top says, "Thank you, we commend the Oshkosh Police Department, PJ's Tavern," and I can't see.
And prosecutors.
And prosecutors. And then you list the people that represent those groups?
No, these are the people that signed this.
Oh, these are the people that signed it.
And there was a further statement that we put out the next day. We kind of went back and sat down. And
I'm going to turn it.
Sure, that's fine. What we did was put a statement out, and basically it said at the end of the meeting, everyone attending the meeting was invited to sign the statement, which you just held up. That included the following sentiments. The assault was a very distressing development. It provides a wake-up call of sorts for the people of Oshkosh. If a savage attack like this can occur here in our community, there is a need to take action to help prevent a reoccurrence of anything even remotely similar to this. Based on information shared at the meeting from the representatives from the Oshkosh Police Department and PJ's Tavern, it's clear that a number of individuals and offices deserve recognition, commendation, and praise for their immediate efforts taken to deal with the life-threatening conditions and to apprehend the assailants. Additionally, actions taken by the district attorney in charging decisions included in the criminal complaint also provide a basis for optimism that the crime will be prosecuted to the fullest extent under the law. And we have hope that the courts and the criminal justice system will find a measure of justice appropriate to the crime that occurred. A clear message needs to be sent to everyone in our community, and those who signed also believe the additional actions and steps need to be taken by everyone, from the typical Oshkosh resident to educators, social service providers, and those who own local businesses, and those providing media coverage to the people of the Oshkosh area. Crime was not an assault only on a victim. It represents an attack on everything that our community stands for. For our part, PFLAG will continue to work towards educating and informing the public on LGBTQ issues, along with supporting LGBTQ individuals and their families. Meetings will remain open to the public, and we welcome anyone willing to make Oshkosh and our community a safer and more inclusive place to live, work, and spend time. And basically that's what we signed on to. We've also put this online as a petition that people can go out and sign further, and we have over 75 signatures on that now.
And just for the viewing public, I wanted to put the link to that petition up on the screen. However, it is extremely long, and it wouldn't fit.
Right.
I could probably make it fit, but you wouldn't be able to read it. So, two things. By the time this show airs, I will have that link on the eyeonoshkosh.com website, and you'll be able to click and link to it directly. Or if you go on Facebook and look up Oshkosh PFLAG, it's just like it sounds, P and then flag. You've got a link to it there as well.
Correct, yes.
So there's two different ways that you can get to it, but it is important, and like we've been saying, this is not just about a gay issue. This is about a human rights issue, and if it can happen here in Oshkosh to this man, it can happen to anyone, anywhere, for any reason, really. So. So let's talk a little bit about PFLAG, and I think one of the things that we need to do, is this kind of thing, making people aware of, the issues and the struggles that are out there. And it's not just for gay and lesbian people,
Sure.
Parents of gay children face a certain adversity as well, right?
Absolutely. The process, once a gay child comes out to the parent, there is a coming out of sorts for the parent as well. There's a whole realm of emotions that go on. Many parents are okay with it. They love their children. Other parents just don't know where to turn. They don't know what to do. PFLAG was actually started back in the 70s by a woman who saw her son being beaten in the outside one of the taverns, and I've forgotten the name of it right now, but in New York City, saw her son on television being beaten by the police, who were actually raiding this gay tavern, and decided that she would walk with her son in a PFLAG, or not a PFLAG, but a gay pride march, that one of the first ones that started. And as she was walking down, many of the parents of the participants in the parade came out and said, and she carried a sign that said, "Parents and families unite with your gay children." And they said, how do we do this? What do we do? This is something that we need to get together to do. So PFLAG, she started PFLAG back in the 70s. It's grown to be a national organization, some 350 chapters across the United States. And the three areas that we do, our three pillars are support, education, and advocacy for the families and LGBTQ individuals. And we're there to help, to have resources, to give people some place to feel that they can come and talk about this, where they might not be able to do it with their family or their relatives or their neighbors or whatever. And it's a first step, hopefully, that will help them come to the point where they can, I guess, be as public about it as they want to be.
Yeah. Now, the local group, how long has the local PFLAG been in existence, Joe?
4 years. It'll be 4 years in February.
Okay. And you're the president of it?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Have you gone to or thinking about going to the school board for an open session or the city council to spread? I to be honest with you, I've never heard of your group before,
right.
Cheryl. That this is important to go out more.
Oh, certainly, absolutely. We've tried. One of the things that we've tried to do with the first few years that we were here is to connect with the other organizations around, and to connect with other organizations that are not maybe gay centered, but Community for Hope here in Oshkosh, which is suicide prevention, with the churches, with different things. So we've reached out to do that, and I think now it is time for us to step out. We actually have worked with the schools, but we've worked with them at the high school levels and at the social worker and counselor levels, where they have groups in the both high schools, Oshkosh high schools, and they're called GSA, Gay Straight Alliances. And they are doing very well with that. These are organizations, similar to, a math club or a science club or something like that, and they're sponsored, and they have been been doing very, very well. Both gay and straight students come in, have things to talk about, or activities and organizations, things that they do during the year.
In listening to you, keep using schools, but you never mention UWO. Isn't there an equal concern there too?
Sure.
Yeah.
And we work very closely with them as well.
Okay.
There are two organizations at the university. There's a student organization called HOPE, and then there's a organization that's part of the university, the LGBTQ Resource Center up there, headed up by Liz Cannon. And so we work closely with them. We've done a number of things with them already. We're just continuing to try and reach out and work.
It's easy for me to make suggestions.
That's okay.
That's how things get done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and one of the points that I heard someone making at the meeting during the portion that I was at was, you know, she's got middle-aged, middle school kids, and I can't remember if one or two of them are gay, but there's no resource for them at that age level.
Correct.
And you know, I know some of the people were saying, well, why is that? And I'm not sure why that is either, but maybe that's something that, you know, can be worked on with the school district as well, as if the school district doesn't have enough issues to deal with right now.
Certainly. Well, the GSAs, just to be clear with that, the GSAs are a student-driven club, if you will, or organization within there. It has to be run and generated and put together by the students. They can't come and say, okay, you're going to have a gay-straight alliance in here now. It has to be student-driven. There's a great organization out of Madison, GSA for Safe Schools, and they will come in and work with the students to help them get it set up and work with it very well. And we've done a number of things up and down the valley with them. The Appleton PFLAG has just reorganized and started this year, and we've worked with them and Harmony Cafe up in Appleton. So there's a number of things that go on here.
Okay. So with specific regard to this incident, Joe, what is it, I mean, you've sort of went through what the petition was really that you were kind of signing on to, but what are you hoping will come as a result of this incident here? I mean, obviously, I'm assuming you want these guys prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And the officer who was there did say that they've had, they're very familiar with these two gentlemen, that they've had a criminal history and you know, interaction with them in the past. So this is not anything. This is a little different.
This is a little bit different. I think, you know, I think what we need to do is we need to keep an eye on what's going on and trust that at least now that everybody, the professionals are doing their job, and so far we felt that they've done that pretty well. The thing that we want to do, the thing that PFLAG wants to do, is to get out in the community. We're looking at a couple of suggestions that we've had are to do something with the farmers market, to put a booth out there that has PFLAG and maybe have some you know, some other people from the gay and lesbian community that might be artists that want to show works and stuff at that booth, and along with giving information out and you know, making a more public appearance in the community.
Does the victim have adequate medical insurance?
I am not absolutely sure on that. I know that they're taking up a collection for him to assist with that. He does live with his parents still, so I'm not sure where that is, and that's another thing that.
But a possible fundraiser, if he didn't, might be something you
certainly.
Could, okay.
Certainly.
Will any letters be written to, you know, in cases like this and child abuse cases, animal abuse cases, people frequently write letters to the judge as well as the prosecutor. I mean, I think the prosecutor's office now knows where PFLAG stands on this and others in the community. But, you know, are there going to be any letters written to the judge in this case, or, you know, where is that at?
It probably is a good idea. I don't know that anything has been done. Again, as I said, we have done a lot of things trying to get the word out, meeting with a lot of different people here, and at the PFLAG meeting we'll look at more specific things to do. Certainly that's something that we should do is make sure that we keep on top of what's going on with this, and if it means an appearance in court during the proceedings, that's what we should do.
Well, and the other thing is, and you probably aren't aware of this, and it's really kind of premature, but I know when trials like this are going on, if a person's been convicted, there are always victim impact statements, and you know, hopefully when we reach that point, the victim in this case will be at a point where he can communicate, you know, what this has done to him. But if not, I would hope that others would be able to communicate on his behalf, and also, you know, on behalf of themselves as to what this has meant to them.
Certainly, yeah. It's something that we need to all stand together, and I know that the family is in need of as much support, even if it's just somebody being there, or them knowing that people are on their side with it. That's what we need to do.
Well, how can people reach the family? Is there, you know, an address or a contact person who is communicating with them?
There is not. PJ's Tavern here in Oshkosh is doing a fundraiser, kind of an ongoing fundraiser. You can come in and contribute to the cause with that and help. And that's probably where you find most of the information at this point for that. His name has not been publicly put out there, so I don't even know the name of the victim.
He probably prefers that at this point.
Yeah.
I would guess so.
Sure. Yeah, I would think so.
Sure.
Okay, all right. And just a little bit about PFLAG in our last remaining moment or two here. How often do you meet? Where do you meet? How can people find out more information?
We meet the second Tuesday of every month at 6:30 p.m. at First Congregational Church, 137 Algoma Boulevard. And again, the meetings are open to the public. We generally meet from 6:30 to 8, and we are around there afterwards for anybody who needs to, you know, wants to talk personally or individually about it. We will be there.
So 6:30 to 8, you said.
Correct.
All right. And you know, give us some sense of how large the meeting usually is. Obviously, this was a large group that night. How many people are usually there?
It's ranged anywhere from the 30 that we had here down to 2 or 3 that come in and do it. And sometimes we get a little, you know, discouraged and saying, oh, there's only 3 people here. But about the time we start saying that, somebody walks in the door that needs us and needs to have that support. And that's what we're there for.
So your 3 tenets again are education, advocacy, and support. Okay. And you know, like, just give us a real quick overview of the kinds of support and advocacy that you do.
Well, a lot of the parents in particular that come to the PFLAG meetings are looking for their son or daughter may have, in addition to being gay and having issues of depression, and these are things that just go along with it. So if we can connect them with an organization that would help, in some cases they're, you know, the child may be somewhat suicidal, or they fear that they're suicidal. We put them in touch with Community for Hope. So that's the kind of thing that we do and can do. And there's other organizations, national organizations, that we can put them in touch with.
Okay. All right. Very good. So PFLAG, the second Tuesday of every month at First Congregational Church, 137 Algoma Boulevard, 6:30 to 8 p.m. Joe, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it very, very much.
Thanks for your
presentation. And again, go online and sign the petition if you're interested, or even if you're not necessarily sure that you want to sign the petition, at least go online and take a look at it. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Until then, take good care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.